Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question for you, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Huh?
What'd you say?
Guys, Gabe got a new set of headphones.
I do. I did.
And they're noise canceling. But Gabe, they don't cancel out my voice.
They cancel out everything except Jeff's voice. It was a real weird ad on Amazon. Cancels out everybody's voice except Jeff. Does everybody else know who Jeff is? Is that every Jeff?
Well, no, they personalize your ads now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it's part of the algorithm.
Sure.
And they actually do personalize your ads based on what your friends are into, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they know who your friends are, and they know your friend is into, my friend's into soda, so they know
that Jeff hates hearing anybody else's voice but loves hearing his own. They thought maybe I would like the same thing.
Oh no, that is not the case.
Yeah, so I've been watching Black Mirror.
Okay,
you ever seen that show?
I have not seen it.
It's like the Twilight Zone, but it's
right.
It's more like technology based.
Yeah, it's commentary on
and what a commentary it is.
Yeah.
I'm like maybe 7 episodes in, and I kid you not, 3 of the episodes so far have been like a commentary on how over reliant we are on technology and social media. And it's like,
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah,
I got it the first time. I got it the second time.
That's why I haven't seen it, because I watched a review of one of the episodes and I was like, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard and seen that a million times before.
And I mean, like, it's enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I'm not trying to
watching it.
I'm not trying to tell anybody off the show or say that they didn't do a good job on it. I'm just not interested in hearing the commentary I've heard before.
Right. Yeah. Each time I'm like, oh, I get it. Okay. So this is a metaphor about our over-reliance on technology and social media. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, 5 seconds in? Ooh. Okay.
I mean, have you gotten to the one where it's like everybody's rating each other?
Yeah, that's the one I just watched.
Okay, yeah. That's the one I saw.
That's the third in the last 7 episodes.
Sure. And so that's the one I saw like a big a review on and stuff like this, because I'd heard a few things so I was like, oh, I'll just watch this like quick review of it. Although it probably was about the length of the episode anyway. So I probably could have just watched it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's neat. That's interesting. That's something to think about, but it's not something I haven't thought about before. It's
sure.
But, I'm not trying to. I'm being a stick in the mud for no reason.
But I mean, it's good. If anybody wants to watch it, I do recommend it. It's well made, and like I said, I'll keep watching it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so how are you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing all right. Little stressed out. Still working out the problems of my new computer.
Yeah,
man, technology.
I know, man. It's almost like we're over reliant on it. Let's go on social media.
Yeah, we should write a show about that.
Yeah.
We should start a podcast about that.
We should, except instead of technology, let's have it be about role-playing games.
Sure, yeah. It's like,
hey, tell you what, I have a time machine here. Let's go back in time maybe 2.5 years and then start it then, so we'll have a respectable following by now.
Sure. Maybe. Yeah. I just keep having issues.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what the problem is, but that's just how it is. Troubleshooting technology is like, you don't know the problem. You have to recreate the error over and over and over again in order to lock down exactly what's causing it. But if it's just very rare and sporadic and it's just hard to I find myself sitting at my computer using it and going like, I wonder if it's going to crash. I just have to be on edge.
Sure.
And then only when my guard is down is when it crashes on me. And I'm like, what just happened? I don't even remember what I was doing. Was I listening to music or was I watching a video?
Sure.
Or both.
So speaking of which, sorry, if you don't mind me interrupting. Last week we had Dan and Jake from Brute Force and Ignorance.
Oh, right. Yep.
The reason I say speaking of which is because there were several during the recording, there were several times where someone involved had to restart their computer so as not to lose all of their all their data and everything. So there were a lot of technical issues during that episode, but I think it was a good episode, and I'm happy with the end result. And it was great having those two on. They were a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a blast. We had a good time. But there was a lot of technical issues. It's just the way we were like the stuff we were using to communicate. We went through like 3 or 4 different options.
We couldn't get Google Hangouts to work with everybody.
Yeah.
We couldn't get Skype to work with everybody. We couldn't get Roll20 to work with everybody. So in the end, I think we were on Roll20 with one of them, Google Hangouts with another one of them. They were on Skype with each other.
Oh my goodness!
I think it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
but we got it. We got it to work. So yeah. Similar to your computer issue, I'm having issues with my 3D printer.
Yeah, you're telling me.
The new one. I keep going back and forth between whether I think it was a good purchase or not because I keep having issues with it. Yeah. I haven't been able to actually print any like character miniatures in a long time. I printed a couple I have like a werewolf that I printed.
Yeah, that one looked really good.
I've got I've printed some Warhammer stuff for you. Those turned out really good.
Yeah, those turned out amazing.
All the characters I print though, something goes wrong with them every time. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm willing, but they're just some like minor adjustments you have to make. Nothing like long term or anything like that.
Yeah. Anyway, you want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to imagine that you have you've loaded up your favorite first-person shooter that you enjoy play. Your favorite team-based first-person shooter.
Okay, yeah, hero-based, class shooter. Yep. Okay.
Yes. So you're playing this game, and there is this one guy that just keeps, I don't know, headshotting you or something.
He keeps deflecting all my shots.
He keeps deflecting all your shots. There you go.
Dang it.
And I don't know where I'm going with this. So you get mad at him, and then he comes on mic, and he's like, come face me in the dragon's horde.
Well, Genji's ultimate does involve dragons.
Oh, shoot. Why didn't I involve that? Why didn't I make that part of the story?
Do you want to read too?
No. Okay. No, I'm good. In fact, I'll leave this part in. So today's Dragon's Horde item was submitted by Avanchill via email, and it is called Genji's Gauntlets.
Yeah.
Now, before...
Can you tell we haven't played Overwatch in a while?
Yeah. So before I brought this up to you, actually, Jeff, I assumed that this was a reference to possibly Final Fantasy, because many Final Fantasy games have had the Genji gauntlets as a fairly powerful accessory of some kind. I assumed that's what that was, but then you made it make a lot more sense in that this is clearly an Overwatch. I mean, like I think pretty clearly an Overwatch reference.
I haven't read it myself, so it's possible.
We'll get to that. I am almost positive that that's what it is supposed to be. Anyway, so these are very rare gauntlets. They do require attunement. Once known for his terrifying feats in all of his battles or assassination strikes, he one day disappeared without a trace, but his legacy lives on. A shinobi with no equal whose name made even the nobles of the Spiderlands shiver. Etched in old kanji under the black metal guard, your prey will learn to fear what they do not see. These sleek black metal gauntlets have 6 black metal darts embedded into them each. Upon attuning to these gauntlets, the user can use these darts as thrown weapons. The dart damage is 1d4 piercing plus dexterity modifier. The user can also attack with these darts using a set of rhythmic whistles in which the darts seem to fly on their own when seeking out their targets. So maybe not exclusively Genji.
Sure.
We'll get to what else they are referencing in a moment. When using the darts in this way, the wearer will substitute their charisma modifier for their dexterity mod on their attack modifiers. The damage will be 1d4 piercing plus charisma modifier, in case that wasn't clear. In addition, if the wearer is a monk or a kensai, the Heroes of the Orient class, I'm actually not sure what that is, because kensai, I believe, is a monk archetype?
Yeah.
In 5th edition, or is it a fighter archetype?
No, it's a monk archetype.
Okay.
Yeah.
They can use a key point to forego the audible whistle and telepathically throw the darts for 1 round. When all the darts have been expended, the wearer can use an action to recall or teleport all the darts back to the gauntlets. These gauntlets are considered magical for the purposes of overcoming resistances. Also, the gauntlets, if used as a melee weapon, would be considered an unarmed attack, dealing 1d6 piercing damage plus dexterity modifier. A couple extra details. The darts must be within 200 feet to be recalled. However, if the darts are not recalled or recoverable before a long rest, one dart will appear in each gauntlet by the end of said long rest, meaning new darts can be made custom for the gauntlets by the players as long as they share the same design. Let your imaginations fly. So, like, if you wanted to, you can make them shuriken.
Okay.
Similar to Genji from Overwatch.
Sure, yeah.
And then one last thing, there is a quote to go with this item. And I like when items have quotes along with them. Not many items do.
Yeah.
And the quote is, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all."
so yeah, not just... it's hard to say if it's specifically a reference to Genji from Overwatch and not just Genji gauntlets in general or something like that.
And I think Genji was the name of an actual samurai or something.
Yeah, in any case, Genji has the throwing
shurikens
that come out of
his gauntlet. Yeah. And then, of course, is Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right, yeah, with the whistling, that needle thing he's got.
It's an arrow, actually.
Right, yeah.
A couple things from the flavor text for this at the very beginning there. First off, the nobles of the Spiderlands. Sign me up.
Right. What's that? Yeah. What's that about?
But then also, it's etched in kanji. Is your prey will learn to fear what they do not see, which means that kanji exists in whatever world this thing is. I don't know. If it were me personally, I would have just said, like, in a mysterious language.
Sure.
Or something.
I mean, like, you know, when it comes to magical items with some sort of, like, script or anything on it, like, I feel it's always up to the DM to, like, you know, what language could it be, you know? Like, because maybe you do have some sort of mysterious, like, ancient civilization in your campaign that you're running, and you'd be like, you know, maybe it's just, it's from their script.
Yeah. One more thing that I do like about this is I like how the players can sort of, like, design their own darts.
Right, yeah.
You know, it's a little detail, but I like when items let the players items or abilities let the players choose what their abilities and such look like.
Right, yeah. Because it's like, you know, it's a gauntlet, and then, you know, the gauntlet's what's making the things magical, so you can kind of make them whatever you want.
Yeah, I like that because, you know, of course I reskin lots of stuff, but I like when it is an explicit part because that's going to get more people to do it. More players are going to come up with a cool description for their abilities if the item or ability says for them to do so.
Right.
So I like that. So that was the Genji's Gauntlets from Avonshill via email. Thank you, Avonshill. Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit Dragon's Hoard items, or stories for the funeral pyre, or questions for us to discuss, how would they do so?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com, or they can join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
Yes, all lowercase, no punctuation, no spaces.
Yep.
bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. And then I want to tell everybody that our show is brought to you by our wonderful patrons. We have a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. We've got some cool tiers on there with good rewards. We've got outtakes. As of this recording, I just put out a bunch of outtakes a few days ago. Outtakes from when we had the guys from Crit Academy on. We had a whole bunch of outtakes from that episode. Yeah. When we had, just the other day, when we had Dan and Jake on, we actually didn't have, we had a few outtakes, not really a ton, because several of the things that I would have cut out ended up getting referenced in significant ways later, so I
had to keep them in.
You know. Anyway, so yeah, we've got outtakes on our Discord. We have fantasy fiction that I write every month. Last month's was a little bit late, but I finally got it out, and I'm pretty happy with the result.
Cool.
I have a week off coming up. Actually, by the time this episode goes out, I will be on my break.
Nice.
I'm going to try to get this month's and possibly next month's written during the break. So I want to try to get a bit ahead on that. We've also got a monthly bonus podcast, which we're actually going to be recording after we record this.
Yep.
Also, we have a monthly Roll20 game. Again, I'm going to try to have that during the break as well. And also, if you're in the top tier, I will write about your character for our monthly fiction.
Awesome.
So we got some cool rewards on there. Go and check those out. You can, spend $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, anything in between, and help out the show and get some cool rewards in return. So once again, that's patreon.com/interpartyconflict. So check that out.
Yep.
And then also, just one more thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Crit Academy, critacademy.com, is a podcast where Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Garen and Dan from D&D Character Lab make characters every week and then pit them against each other and debate whose is better. And then the guys over at Brute Force and Ignorance, which we just had 2 of them on our show last week, they have an actual play podcast. They put their original story on hiatus, but they've started a new one. I think its first episode and like an introductory episode are out as of this recording. So probably another episode will be out by the time this episode goes out.
Cool.
Check them out. They're great. Some great guys. They got a great show. Cool stuff. Cool stuff on this network. You want to get into some questions, Jeff?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
This our first question comes from Mary Poppins, y'all. Wait, I'm sorry. Oh no, it's from Gabe.
Who's that guy? It's Mary Poppins' sidekick, Gabe.
Well, Gabe has a question for us.
I do. I have something that I wanted to discuss.
Yeah. Could someone play an atheist character in a D&D setting such as the Forgotten Realms?
Yeah. So I brought this question in because I've seen people pretty much unilaterally across the internet, anytime the topic of playing an atheist character in D&D, everybody always seems to say that, no, that's impossible. And I'll get into some reasons why they say it's possible, and then I'll give my thoughts on the matter. I guess spoilers, I think it is possible.
Sure.
And I'll get into why. Mm-hmm. So let me clarify, when I say an atheist character, I don't just mean a character that doesn't worship a deity, because anybody can play. You can even play a cleric that doesn't worship a deity.
Right, yeah.
Ever since 3rd edition or possibly before, you could play a cleric that didn't worship, a cleric or a paladin that didn't worship a specific deity.
Yeah.
Just worshipped an ideal.
Right.
Or like for paladins, like an oath or something like that, especially in 5th edition, it's explicitly an oath.
Right, yeah. But they definitely made it a little bit more freeing. Like there was still in 3rd edition there was still the alignment restrictions.
Yeah, that's true.
But not so much like you didn't have to be specifically a paladin of Palor or something.
Correct. And to be fair, 4th edition actually did that first. In 4th edition, there were no alignment restrictions whatsoever. In 3rd edition, there were alignment restrictions, but there were, depending on what sources you were allowing, there were plenty of examples of paladins of other alignments.
Right, yeah.
That were pretty close to the paladin, but got slightly different powers depending on what alignment they were. Anyway, right. So 5th edition is just in case anybody is like, 5th edition, they made it so paladins don't have to be lawful good. They didn't. That's already been the case for a long time. Anyway, so I'm talking about a character that not only doesn't worship a given deity, but does not believe in one or potentially all deities.
Right.
So I'm going to, just a little forewarning, I am going to try as best as I can not to make any direct references to real world religion, because that's not what this is about. I'm not trying to disparage anybody's religious beliefs. I'm not trying to change anybody's real world beliefs. I'm just trying to change the way that people view D&D characters in a fantasy world like the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, this isn't supposed to be a direct commentary on
not at all.
religion.
Not at all.
This is just
whatever beliefs you have or do not have, all the power to you. Go discuss those with somebody else, because that's not what this is about.
But when it comes to the rules of
the rules of D&D,
yeah, we've got some words to say.
Yes. So I guess let me give some of the reasons why somebody might say you can't play an atheist character in D&D.
Sure.
Number 1, clerics exist.
Okay.
Clerics worship a deity. They get spells directly from that deity. There are spells that let you talk directly to your deity, or at the very least to a proxy of your deity. Mm-hmm. Somebody could easily say you can't be an atheist because there are people who can just pick up the phone and call Palor or whatever. Okay.
I got Palor on speed dial.
Right. Go to your Palor booth over there. I will provide rebuttals to these in a moment. I'm just trying to get the ideas out there.
Gabe likes to lay out his targets.
I do. I especially with something like that, because I don't want to make anybody think that I'm dipping into commentary on real world stuff. I'm trying to make sure I'm as structured as possible.
Sure.
So clerics exist. I think that's a pretty good argument.
Okay.
Another argument that I've seen many people use is that the literal gods literally walk the literal earth.
Right.
You can meet Bane in the Forgotten Realms. You can meet Mystra, if Mystra still exists. I actually don't know off the top of my head. You can meet an actual deity who has actual divine power and talk to them and everything. Mm-hmm. So as a result, you could not say that someone is an atheist because, look, right over there, it's Lathander or whatever. Trying to go through the other path, or who the other Forgotten Realms deities are.
Yeah, should I pull up the Faerun pantheon?
No, that's fine. And I think those are probably the two most common and most reasonable reasons.
Sure.
I guess. There might be others. If there are others, don't at me. I don't know. I mean,
no, please do. Please,
if there are others, hopefully my responses will address those as well.
Sure. Okay.
I think that, yes, it is very much possible to play an atheist character in D&D. And I've got a few different reasons. The very first reason is the simplest reason. You can play whatever the heck you want in D&D. Your character can be insane if you want to.
Right, yeah.
That's fine. There's no... I feel like there are so few things you can say you cannot play this in D&D.
So I'm thinking like in a setting where everybody can basically pick up the phone and call Paylor, but
sure.
The crazy person is the one who can't hear the voices.
I picked up the phone. There's nobody there. What are you... Am I the only person here?
All I hear is boop.
Exactly. So, I mean, like the very simplest thing, if you want to be the one atheist in all of Faerun who refuses to believe whatever, do it. There's nothing stopping you. Mm-hmm. Whether, I'll get into why I think that you don't have to be the insane one to do that.
Right.
But I was just a moment ago searching on Reddit to see if anybody else has had this exact discussion before. I didn't look very hard, but I didn't find any. But one person said like they compared atheists in Forgotten Realms to flat earthers as like, it's like, oh, there's all this evidence and you're just not seeing it.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I think is again, I don't want to dip into too much real world commentary, but I think that is an apt enough comparison.
Okay.
Anyway, so I don't think that you have to be the crazy one in order to be the single, atheist in the Forgotten Realms or whatever. And I guess let me get into, before I'll get into the real heavy stuff in a minute. The next thing that I'll say is that magic exists in the Forgotten Realms. Non-divine magic exists in the Forgotten Realms. Mm-hmm. How do you know the difference? Let's say you do see Lathander or Bane or Paylor or Thor or anybody, any sort of
no.
Is that one of the Egyptian
Tyr?
Tyr. Oh, Tyr.
And Tyr. I don't know why. I've had this exact conversation on this podcast.
Have you?
And Tyr. I don't know why.
Oh, because they're both three letters.
Yeah, but like anyway.
I don't know.
But it's Tyr's the one I'm thinking of because it's Lady Arabeth
from Neverwinter Nights.
From Neverwinter Nights. She is a paladin of Tyr.
Mm-hmm.
Or I won't go into spoilers.
Okay. Anyway. So if you saw Tyr or Bane or Mistra or whatever, if you saw a literal deity walking around, could the argument not be made that's not a deity, that's just a person with a whole lot of magic? Because again, there are people with a whole lot of magic.
Yeah. If Elminster, he's not a deity.
He's not a deity, but like he could show up in a village and be like, hey guys, I'm a deity. Yeah. Shoot off a bunch of magic. And what basis would you have to prove him wrong? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and I mean, like, I would assume that most of the deities in Faerun don't want to just like go about and say like, hey, I'm a god.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, how's it going? I'm a god. Like, no, they're usually like polymorphed or disguised, or they're just, if they're going to be walking among mortals or whatever, they're usually not going to be, too flamboyant about it.
Sure.
Maybe. Unless they want to be. Unless they want to be.
So you have to ask the question, what exactly constitutes a deity? What makes a deity different than someone who is just a very, very high-level spellcaster?
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know if it's Faerun specifically, but like, there was the Deities and Demigods book. It was a 3rd edition book.
Yeah. There was one for Faerun. It was called Faiths and Pantheons.
Okay. But I know with the deities and demigods, like, I feel like there were a couple deities that were specifically people who just got powerful enough.
Yeah,
like
very much so.
That was their origin. Was like they just were so good at magic that they've ascended to deity or whatever.
Yeah, in Greyhawk, which was the official setting in 3rd edition, Vecna.
Right.
The god of death and magic.
The one with the hand and the eye and such.
The hand and the eye and everything. He was a literal mortal being that just got so much power, got so much of a following that eventually he ascended to divinity.
Right.
Kyus was another one. Kyus was a mortal warlord that got enough people to basically give their souls to him, and he gained divine power from it.
Glip do poop.
Well, so the Kuo-toa are a very interesting wrench in this whole thing in that they make deities.
Yeah.
If enough Kuo-toa believe in something, it becomes a deity. So how can you say, well, how can you say someone cannot imagine that all deities arrived that way? Like, none of us were around, and us being the characters in the game world.
Sure.
None of us, quote unquote, none of the peasants were around when Torm became a deity or whatever, however he came to exist. So how do we know that he wasn't just something that somebody thought up, that a bunch of mortals thought up and then became real? Maybe that's just how magic works.
Right, yeah.
And also, let me say that I'm trying to involve Forgotten Realms stuff as much as possible because that's an established setting everybody will understand.
Yeah.
If this is your homebrew setting, there is no question as to whether or not there can be atheists. Yes, there absolutely can, because it's your own setting. There can be whatever you want. I mean, I guess a DM could say to their players, there is literally no atheists in this entire world. Well, I guess.
Yeah,
that's a weird flex.
Right.
I think is the expression all the kids are using on the battlefield, I was about to say, on the playground.
Well, because like if it's your setting, and in your setting there are just like gods, and they're very obviously gods, and then they're flaunting their powers, and they're just like out and about all the time.
Sure.
Maybe they're like 60 feet tall. You can't miss them. Then you're like, I guess. Yeah, I can't say that that's not there. Like,
but is that a god? Do I have to believe that is a god?
Sure. Yeah.
If I am a peasant, and somebody uses Summon Monster 8 or whatever to summon like a Planetar or some sort of demon or an angel or something, who am I to say that isn't a god? And if I can say that's a god, what's to stop you from saying that's not a god and then pointing over at Torm and saying that's not a god either? So whether or not you can play an atheist in a D&D setting, it should not be a question of whether you can play one. It should be a question of whether they are right or not. Because we are players, we can look at the rules, and we can look in the campaign setting book, and we can see here it says, okay, the gods in Faerun are real. They walk the earth. They interact with mortals on a daily basis. Okay, we as the players know that is true because that's what the book tells us.
Right.
That is what the DM tells us. The DM tells us the gods are real.
Sure.
But our characters
don't own that book.
Exactly. The characters are not looking in this book and be like, oh, okay, this is true.
Whoa, Thor's got a 40 AC? That's crazy.
Exactly. And I think it is extremely metagamey to say you cannot play a character that believes a certain thing, because characters can believe whatever the heck they want. Like I said earlier, they could be insane if you wanted them to be.
Yeah.
So now that sort of brings us to the last thing, and I'm gonna mention the existence of real world religion, but I am not going to refer to any actual religions here.
Sure.
No matter what religion you do or do not subscribe to, you believe most, if not all, other religions to be false. There are some out there that are like inclusive with certain other religions, but there's no way for every religion in the world to coexist and to all be true.
Sure.
I guarantee you, whatever your beliefs are, there are people out there whose religious beliefs you believe are complete and total falsehood. Every religion, I guess I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure every single religion has stories of some divine beings walking the earth at some point, even concurrently. If you're a Christian, there are probably stories of people who believe that they met God or Jesus on the road somewhere. If you're if you were, someone that believed in the Norse gods back in the day, at that time, people believed the Norse gods walked the earth. In Greece, they were like, that mountain over there, the gods are currently right up on top of that mountain right now.
Yeah.
Every religion has stories of gods walking the earth. And yet, every other religion believes that story is not true. So if you're in a D&D world, and there are stories, even if you meet someone who says, I walked down the road with Tyr the other day. if you believe them, you'll believe them. If you don't believe them, you won't believe them.
Yeah.
It is unreasonable to say that you could not make a character that doesn't believe the story of someone meeting a deity, especially if it's secondhand, third hand, fourth hand, whatever. If you hear, there's a group of adventurers that went and met a bunch of deities. Okay, I'm a commoner farming my ground right now. What does that have to do with me? Why should I believe it? Mm-hmm. So to say that you can't play an atheist in a D&D world is really unrealistic. I know I hate to throw the world on. It's
just you're just using metagame knowledge to dictate what your characters would know.
Absolutely,
and that's why you want to avoid that sort of metagaming because it's like that's not like. It's not fun if the character knows everything that you do, it's about, putting your characters in these situations where they have to, figure things out for themselves.
Yeah. So I just, many times I've seen in discussions, people be like, oh, atheist character, you can't play an atheist character in D&D. The gods walk the earth. And I'm like, there are people in the real world today that say that gods walk the earth, and I don't believe them. And I'm sure you don't believe them either. I guarantee you there are people in the world today that believe things that you don't believe. And again, whether you believe in a god or no gods or all gods, there are atheists in the world today. So why can't there be atheists in a world where there are so many other reasons why you might believe that that person isn't actually a god? Or, hey, here's the thing, illusions exist. Sure, maybe you thought you walked next to Tyr or Lathander or Pelor or whatever, but maybe you didn't see the illusionist in the bushes creating that illusion, hoping to come out here and then make you think that they were Tyr's best friend and you'd give them all your money.
Tyr's best friend.
Like there are so many ways to explain why a person in a setting like the Forgotten Realms might not believe in a deity. Now, whether they're right or wrong, hey, that's up to you and your group and the DM to decide. Yeah, that's not what this is about.
That could lead to some interesting interparty conflict.
Ding, exactly.
Yeah, so because if one character is a devout paladin of Tyr or whatever, and another person is a atheist wizard or something like that, and it's like they might have at it a couple times, they might get into some discussions.
And I wanted to bring this up because there's also, in addition to just the question of could someone play an atheist character, I think that there are some really fun things that can come about because of this. Like you were saying, I would love if there was, because you'll hear about like, oh, there's the paladin who the rogue wants to go and, steal and kill or whatever, and the paladin stops them just because it's the paladin's code or whatever. Okay, that can happen. That's a well-worn trope.
Sure.
What if there is one member of the group that is an atheist and someone else in the group wants to convert them because like maybe the cleric met his deity a long time ago and is like, no, look, let me explain to you that, like you were saying, that can lead to some interparty conflict. If it's the other way around, if the dwarf, he's the dwarf cleric is a cleric of Moradin because his parents worship Moradin, everybody in his hometown worship Moradin. So Moradin is it's just assumed that Moradin exists. It's just assumed that that's where the cleric is getting his power from. And then maybe somebody else doesn't believe in Moradin and they're like, hey, let me try and get you to see how maybe your power might be coming from inside you instead. Now, in Eberron, I think Eberron was so interesting for this because in Eberron, it was explicit that it is not the deity that grants you your power. It is your devotion to your belief in that deity. So it is your belief that creates the magic, not the deity itself. Because in Eberron, it is very, very... I want to say wishy-washy. It's not really wishy-washy. It's very unclear whether the deities are real. Even in the legends, every legend has the deities as different beings, whether they are physical beings, metaphysical beings, or so on. And a lot of people don't even worship a specific deity. They're just like, oh, I worship all the good gods. Yeah. And then they get their power from all the good gods. But it was explicit in that campaign setting that if you wanted to, you could be a cleric of the party's fighter.
Sure.
Even if the party's fighter is just a normal dude, you can gain power from your belief in the party fighter. I love that. That's such a cool concept.
That's a really cool image of like, the cleric is converting to the the church of the party's fighter.
Right.
Every time that fighter busts down a door, he gets more and more devout.
Exactly. And Pathfinder did something even cooler with this, because in Pathfinder, unless I'm mistaken, it's been a long time since I've read the Pathfinder books. It is, it's pretty explicit that there are gods. The question though is whether or not you are getting your power from the gods, because you can worship an ideal in Pathfinder. You don't have to worship a god. You can be a cleric of fire, or a cleric of happiness or something, and then you get whatever domain you chose that goes along with your chosen ideal.
Yeah. The cleric of that nice feeling after a big meal.
Sure. Like, the cleric of fullness.
Yes. The paladin of naps after Thanksgiving.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
That's all right. I know my next character, Jeff. So you don't have to worship a deity to get power. You can worship an ideal, but in Pathfinders, like in the world of Golarion, in the history of the world, a long time ago, there was this like meteor that hit, this super powerful magical meteor. It hit, it like went to the bottom of the ocean or something. I don't know. Long time ago. There was this dude who was like the last survivor of this ancient civilization, who he was really powerful. He used his power to bring the meteors called the Starstone, if I'm not mistaken, pick up the meteor from the bottom of the ocean, bring it back up, and he put it inside this temple. And because this meteor had so much magic power in it, him being so close to it, it made him into a god. I believe his name was Aerodin, I think. And then there was actually like, they built this temple around it, and anyone who went into this temple was subjected to some sort of like ridiculous maze, puzzle, challenge, whatever. It was called the Test of the Starstone. If you went into this temple and made it to the Starstone, you would become a deity. Anybody could go become a deity. In fact, again, I haven't played it in a long time, but back when I was in Pathfinder, there were, I think, 3 characters in the world at the time that were mortal and became a deity as a result of this. One of them was Aerodin's like squire or something, or his companion. He helped her to the Starstone. She went through the challenges on her own. She became a deity in her own right. Another one was Norgorber. I don't remember what the name of the first one was. Sorry. Norgorber was a rogue, basically, who when nobody was looking snuck in. Next thing he knows, comes out he's a deity. The third one was, I don't remember his name, but he was a drunk who got drunk one night, woke up the next day, he was a deity. Apparently, in his drunken stupor, he got in and got to the Starstone. The reason I'm bringing all this up, it kind of relates to we were talking about mortals becoming deities and so on. At some point, Aerodin died. At some point in the history of the campaign setting, this deity Aerodin died.
Okay.
He still has followers, but for some reason, they don't get spells anymore. In a world where you can worship an ideal and gain power, these people who worshipped an actual deity that died don't get power anymore. It kind of calls into question. I mean, it seems like, the deities are real, because you get power. Like, clearly you don't get power if you worship a dead one. But it also makes you question, well, why aren't they getting power if their devotion to the ideals of Aerodin don't give them power? I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
That was one of my favorite parts of Golarion back when I was into Pathfinder. So I thought that Pathfinder did really interesting stuff with the question of deities and atheism and so on. One more interesting thing done about religion, and this is something from a game I played in. My good friend Nick, who I played with for many years, and then he passed away a few years ago. He once, at a game that Chris was going to be running, we were all just coming up with characters. We were, workshopping ideas and stuff. And he was like, I want to play a character that worships the idea of Ichi's sword. Because this was going to be like a post-apocalyptic game. It was going to be fantasy, but like way far in the future when like magic or whatever has ravaged the world. And he completely, I did not in any way push him into this. He was like, I think it would be cool if my character followed a religion that worships this very powerful magic item from a long time ago, Ichi's sword.
Yeah.
I don't think we played more than 1 or 2 sessions, but like that was really cool as a player. Because we mentioned earlier the cleric that worships the party's fighter,
right?
Which again in Eberron is a thing. Mm-hmm. If you were that fighter, how cool would that be? And so as the player who like came up with Ichi and Ichi's sword a long time ago, that was like one of the highlights of my gaming career.
So like they have like it's the cleric that is worshiping the party's fighter, and they have a holy symbol that's just like a picture of him or something like that.
Yes.
And so every time he casts a spell or uses like turn undead or something, the fighter goes, "Aw."
Exactly.
Thanks, man. That's aw.
There you go. And one more thing that I wanted to mention, because everybody talks about like, or because we mentioned earlier, there was like, clerics can cast a spell that lets them pick up the phone and talk to their deity.
Yep. Going back to the fighter thing, it's using clairvoyance. Hey, Tim. Yeah. I know you're standing right next to me and you can see the same things I can, but do you know what's on the other side of this door?
Dude, I'm right here. What are you? Why don't you just turn and ask me?
No.
Stop putting your hand up to your face like you're talking on a device that doesn't exist.
No. I'm casting clairvoyance to find out, but I'm communing with my deity to find out what's on the other side of that door. And he's like, okay, fine. And he busts down the door.
That's real good. That's real good.
Perfect casting.
Yes. But, there's spells that you can cast to talk to your deity or whatever. But similar to the, should I believe when I hear a story about someone on the other side of the world meeting a deity, if I hear that, these adventurers met the deity, what does that mean to me? Mm-hmm. High level characters are not common, no matter what setting you're in. Even in Faerun, which is probably the highest magic setting, like official setting. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are a lot of high level NPCs, but still, what percentage of people in the world can cast Commune, which is a 5th level spell? That's the lowest level spell that is explicitly you are talking to your deity or a divine proxy. I know that there are lower level spells that like ask a question, but it is less explicit that you're talking directly to the deity and is more you're talking to some sort of underling or whatever, some sort of being that is relaying your deity's thoughts to you.
Yeah.
So anyway, I always view Commune as like, this is the point where you can literally talk to your deity. So 5th level spell means 9th level character. What percentage of people in the world are 9th level or above?
Right, yeah.
A very small number.
Yeah.
Even if it is 1%, I guarantee you it's less than 1% of the people in the game world. But even if it is 1%, how many people are believing what that one person out of 100 says over what everybody else says?
Yeah.
If one person shows up and they're like, "Oh yeah, I can talk to deities all the time," why should you believe? Why are you guaranteed to believe everything that they tell you?
I wouldn't say it'd be hard for a lot of people to believe them, because if they're that powerful, then they're like shooting fire out of their hands, and people will go like, "Oh, okay, I'll listen to this guy."
But then the 5th level wizard comes along, and the 5th level wizard is like, "Oh shoot, I talk to a deity too. Fireball, fireball, fireball." They are explicitly not getting their power from a deity.
Fireball, fireball, fireball. I'm out of slots. I'll see you later.
I just want to reiterate, like, yes, you can play. Like, we know a 9th level cleric can speak to a deity, but how often is your average commoner meeting a 9th level cleric?
All right,
and why are they believing them whole hog? You know what I mean? Why aren't they at least skeptical enough of this random group of adventurers that comes by from time to time? Why shouldn't they be at least a little bit suspicious that maybe these people are trying to pull the wool over their eyes when they know there are other people in the world that have similar powers that are not divine?
Right.
And then one other thing is that in Faerun, in the Forgotten Realms, again, we as players, we know that deities are real. In fact, we know that it is very dangerous to play an atheist in the Forgotten Realms, because not even if you're an atheist, if you're just a character that does not specifically worship a deity, it is very bad for you in the afterlife. Like, after you die, you go into this, like, your soul goes into this wall where it will be for all eternity. And that's horrifying. So as a player, if you love your character, you might want to purposely not make them an atheist, because then
they get stuck in like a
if
limbo
they die,
type
that's
place.
it. Exactly. So, there is some discouragement against playing an atheist character in the Forgotten Realms, but just my point is it's possible. I really think that if you are making it impossible, you're really hurting the credibility of your world. I'm sure everybody wants their campaign setting to feel like a living, breathing world with quote unquote realistic characters, realistic motivations.
Sure.
And everything, whether the world is realistic or not. If you want your people to feel like real people, I don't think anybody should be against the idea of an atheist character existing. Again, whether they're right or not, that's definitely something to bring up in game. That's definitely something to make into content for your game.
Right. Yeah.
But I just think that the argument of whether or not there could be an atheist character in a game, I think that even just for my first reason, which is you can play whatever the character you want.
Yeah.
You could be the one atheist in the whole world. That's just, play whatever character you want to play. It might make for an interesting debate in game,
Yeah, people are, a lot of people like making characters that are like, I'm the last of the
absolutely
such and such. Like
absolutely.
I'm the last of the Jade Dragonborn or something.
Sure.
I was like, that sounds cool.
That does sound cool. Now I know what my new character is going to be.
I was like, all right, let's go into that and see what that's like. It's not impossible. It's just more challenging.
Sure. I think that it's always interesting to go against the trend when you're making a character. I mean, I know some people want to just play the standbys. They want to play the stereotypical characters. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean the characters that, are tried and true. That's great. I often try to play the character that goes against the norm. And so, I think when we were playing in Eberron, I know Eberron is kind of cheating because Eberron kind of encourages this.
Sure.
My character Perth Broadmoor he was an artificer, and it never really came up in game, but I always envisioned that character as being an atheist because, I don't know. I always viewed him as being skeptical about a lot of things. He liked to see how things worked and take them apart and such. So it always made sense to me that character would be one that was, skeptical of a lot of people's beliefs and such. And so again, it never really came up in game, but I just thought it'd be, an interesting part of that character.
Yeah. Yeah. It does sort of go with that like artificer motif, like,
kind of
where it's like the science of magic rather than the, it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum of divine magic. It's like sciencey magic.
Yeah. And hey, let me make it clear. I would say most of my characters are very religious. I love playing characters that do worship a deity, whether it's a cleric or not, because that's a facet of your character that's like an easy way it's a shorthand for describing to someone what makes your character tick. If your character fervently follows this set of beliefs and such, I think that's an easy way to to get that across to people.
Yeah. Where's a bracelet that says what would Thor do?
I guess. And also, if I'm not sure what kind of character I want to play, if I flip open deities and demigods and there's a cool picture of Thor in there, I'll be like, oh, cool. I want to play a character that worships Thor or something like Thor if we're not in a campaign where Thor exists.
Right. Yeah.
So I am not saying that anybody should not play religious characters either. Play whatever character you want. I play all range of characters.
Yeah. It's just silly to say that something like a type of character can't be done because of your metagame knowledge.
Absolutely. If I want to be a character that doesn't believe in dragons, I'm going to play a character that doesn't believe in dragons.
Yeah,
when you could literally see a dragon attacking your village.
Right. They just never happened to have seen it, or they thought it was an illusion or something.
Exactly. So if you think that it is reasonable for a character to not believe in dragons, then it's also reasonable for that character not to believe in deities.
Probably more so because dragons like to meddle in stuff.
Sure. So I don't know. I just think it's a weird argument to hear, and I only ever hear people on the one side of the argument. So I figured I would give the I would give the other side because hey, play something interesting. Play something new that you haven't seen 1,000 times before.
Yeah.
So anyway, because you've all come here just to hear me rant for a while, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for this week. Don't worry, we'll be back with some more non-Gabe submitted questions next time.
It's Gabe submits a question, then rants about that question.
I always we get a lot of we've got a lot of questions in, and I always try to pick ones that I think will generate good discussion,
Sure.
or what I think to be good discussion, or what you think to be good discussion. So, this is something that has been on my mind for a long time, and I wanted to talk about it. I thought it'd be an interesting thing to get people's feedback on.
Sure.
Because, hey, if you have differing thoughts, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah.
If you think I am an idiot, I mean, I guess don't word it that way, but if you disagree with me, I'd love to hear it. I would love to hear the other side of I mean, again, I did say I've heard the other side of this argument before, but if you have other reasons, I'd love to hear those other reasons. Anyway, so that was this the discussion questions for this week, but we still have our social media questions. Last week's question was, apart from death, what is the worst outcome you've experienced from a failed saving throw?
Ooh.
Do you recall if you had an answer?
I can't remember if I had an answer or not, because I can't remember a specific moment.
Sure.
I definitely died. I don't know if it was from a saving throw. But I do remember a couple character deaths that were, but like they were sort of like, because we usually played with like you get a free life or something, like we threw like True Resurrections, like free lives around.
Sure.
In a couple of our campaigns.
Because dying sucks.
And because there was only three players, in our main group, it was kind of like losing that one character, even for half an adventure, is a big deal.
Yeah.
So, like the couple times I remember dying, I came back pretty immediately. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and this is aside from death.
Right. Exactly.
So.
Oh, right. Yeah. What am I thinking? I'm just trying to think of like, bad things that have happened to characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there was that time that I was, somebody impersonated a doppelganger. Took my place.
True. I think there might have been a saving throw in there. I can't remember.
I can't remember if there was a saving throw involved. I think maybe there was one time I was possessed by a vampire for like a few rounds.
Oh,
I can't remember. It would have been a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there was one time somebody was possessed by a vampire, and I think it might have been me.
Yeah, maybe.
Or charmed, or whatever.
And I mentioned, and I've mentioned many times before, when my character Ichi failed a will save and then he got dominated and he assassinated or something a nearby prince, and then that started a war and all of his party members got killed breaking him out of prison.
Yeah.
And then I meant to mention this last week. I don't know why I didn't, but the whole reason I had this question on here was because it was inspired by Brute Force and Ignorance. One of the characters got petrified, and it took them, about an episode or so to reverse it. But it's just, I feel like that rarely happens in games. Or at least in games that I play in, very rarely does someone get taken out of the game like that.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, but I thought it was interesting. So I meant to applaud Jake for setting that up. But I guess I didn't. So, Jake, if you're listening, good job. Thumbs up, 2 thumbs up for me. So we only got a few responses from listeners on Facebook. Brandon B says, mind controlled by a mind flayer.
Yeah.
That's a pretty bad one.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
Even just stunned by a mind flayer.
Yeah.
Even if you don't end up dying from it, like it's scary.
Horrifying.
It's horrifying. When you are stunned and it's like it's like 10 rounds.
It's so many rounds.
It's so many rounds.
Why?
It's
awful.
It's like a cone effect, and you're out, and it's like so many rounds, and they only need 4 to kill you.
Yeah. And then Sean M says, my tank, Crud the Barbarian, good name.
Yeah.
Failed her attempts to escape a grapple, and I watched as our party and myself almost died. With 6 players, that's about 3 dice tosses for me over an hour as I soaked damage the whole time.
Yeah.
It's pretty tense. Pretty tense right there. Only one of them on Twitter, Crit Academy, says, mind controlled by Crown of Madness. My barbarian beat the heck out of our wild magic sorcerer and wizard with his mailbox, which was a reflavored maul. It was hilarious. Toruk was racked with sadness as he couldn't get the stains of his comrades off his box. Forever a reminder of his actions.
Oh no.
And then underneath, Jason S put a gif of Joey from Friends with like a shocked face.
Yeah.
Nobody on Reddit and on Discord. Noah Wizard, he actually asked us, I can't think of anything that's happened because of a saving throw I failed, but sometimes you guys remember different stories from past campaigns. Is there anything funny or noteworthy I've messed up? Jason, who was in the campaign with him, didn't recall anything. But then he said, in my game just this week, I cursed Margaret's hunter with partial blindness. She suffers a -2 on attack rolls, and her eyes are now black with sparkles of light like stars, because the caster who did it was an oracle obsessed with reading the stars. I think that's a really cool flavor of blindness.
Cool.
He also said that curses are his favorite thing to do to players because he often adds a story element to removing them beyond just beyond just casting remove curse.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is one of the things I don't like about curses is like, it's just like, I just go and get a remove curse scroll, and you're good. But it's like, no, if there's like an actual like story thing you have to do to get rid of it, that's fun.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the way to do it. I think it's not at all interesting to just cast remove curse.
Yeah.
Ever. Remove curse, neutralize poison, remove disease, any of those, like, that's just why'd you even bother in the first place? That's just a tax.
Right, yeah. Like specific antidotes for poisons, that's kind of fun because you gotta go, where's the antidote?
Exactly. Like, oh no, I just cast the same spell I cast on everybody else. What are you talking about? Antidote. And then in response to Noah Wizard, I couldn't think of anything, but I did remember his character failed a check to identify what a Marut was. And he got it wrong. And for the whole campaign, he confused a Marut with a cockatrice and vice versa.
Right. Yeah. That is a running gag with
Yeah. And then Jason on here says on Discord, I have a story involving a failed save leading to an even worse failed save. Actually, spoilers, I don't think these were saves. I think these were skill checks. But what the heck? We only got a few of these. I'll include it. The monk in my party tried to lift a seal from an NPC working on official documents, but he failed and got caught and put in jail. Our breakout plan involved a magic wand to go incorporeal to get into the jail and get him out. I was a rogue and used my use magic device skill to try and pull it off. However, I failed my roll and we all ended up in the astral plane instead. Definitely could have gone somewhere worse, but it was still a crazy series of events. So again, I think those are skills, not saves, but
right, yeah,
close enough.
Yeah.
And then the beverage tea says, near-death embarrassment, I'll say no more.
Near-death embarrassment.
You can't tease us like that.
Come on.
So this week's social media discussion question is, have you ever played out a festival or a party in your game?
Oh.
If so, how did it go?
I've done the... what is the name of the festival?
The Flood Festival.
The Flood Festival.
Shackled City.
I've done that like 3 times.
Yeah.
The more recent one was really good. Gabe played it out really well. There was a comedian.
I put I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I put a lot of work into this. So I'm asking this question because I think I mentioned it earlier. I'm planning on having a party. If I did, maybe I didn't. Did I mention it earlier? Did I even mention it to you when you got here?
Maybe not.
Oh shoot. So Jeff, I'm going to leave this in. Jeff, I'm having a party. Not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday.
Okay.
So the 20th.
Oh, I'm not going to be available.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm playing D&D. I'm DMing.
Jeff, for the whole day?
For a good amount of it, yeah.
Have everybody come over here. Play it over here. You can use the basement.
Okay. We'll see.
All right. Well, anyway, so I'm planning on having a party during my break and, trying to see who all could come over. I'm hoping to have a lot of fun, a lot of people over, video games, all sorts of stuff. And then that got me, in the party mood. So yeah. I'm curious how often people have parties. So I ran the Shackled City adventure path, or at least the beginning of it. Of course, we didn't get to finish it, unfortunately. But there is a festival that takes place fairly early in that. And the hardcover for this adventure path, it has some examples of like games and such that can be going on, but it mostly just says like, oh, sure, you might want to play this out. You might want to play this out and so on. I put in so much work into making this a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So I set up there's a big drinking contest that the whole town has. Mm-hmm. I set up like rules for it and there were going to be tiers for it. So like, I think you were participating. You went up like one day you faced a bunch of people. You beat all of them. Then the next day, I think you might've beat them. Then there was like the third one you got to, at some point you failed, whatever the case. Right, at some point you lost.
I feel like I got to like with the drinking contest. I got to like the last or the second to last guy or something like that.
Maybe. Spoilers for Shackle City. The guy at the end, you can't beat. There's just like there's a reason for it, but there's just like basically if you get to him, if you go enough rounds, he says, "Hey, let's call it a draw." and then like everybody cheers or whatever. So at best you could have gotten a draw.
Sure.
Anyway. So there's a big drinking contest. There's like a little game where everybody goes out into the lake in the middle of the city. And there's a bunch of, cause there's a legend that there's like a monster living in the lake, and spoilers, there actually is a monster living in the lake.
Gasp.
And anyway, there's a game that they play where they put a bunch of like toy boats out in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're given like a token. You have to go around. You have to find the boat that represents the monster. What you do is you go out there. You have to make a check to find a boat. Once you find a boat, you put your token in the boat. The DM then rolls. I think it's just a straight D20 roll. If it's anything but a 20, that's not the boat. You got to keep going. And then there's a certain number of rounds that pass. And if you don't get a 20 by the end of that, somebody else gets it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you find the correct one, you put your token in it, and then like a big illusion of a monster appears, and you win. There's also, because there's the city of Cauldron, the city has 4 churches. I wanted to have each church, I had written out like a service like a sermon that you could go and listen to. I didn't write out a whole sermon, but I wrote like the gist of what their sermon was about. So if you wanted to, you could be like, oh, I want to go to the church of, I think I had it as the church of Harrop. So like the church of strength, you can go to the church of strength and listen to them preach about, we all need to be strong. We need to test ourselves. We're stronger united than we are apart, but we need to stand up when the time comes, and so on and so on. The church of community, the goddess de Troya, you go there and they're all like, yeah, we need to stick together. This town is hard times are going to be coming ahead. So let's all unite together. Let's be a united front. Let's help each other out when each other needs help, and so on and so on. So I came up with like a short sermon for each of those. I also had, each one was giving out like a small magical boon that they would give you if you gave them a donation.
Right. Yeah. I remember that.
The church of Tara Gales, I think, was the name of the deity of vanity. If you gave them a donation, they would cast a spell on you that for 24 hours you just looked really good.
Oh yeah,
you just like looked really attractive.
I think my character was trying to impress somebody and went and got that boon. I think
so.
Yeah.
I think so. I also came up with a bunch of games of skill and or chance. There was a dunk tank. You could, the thing is, the guy that was sitting on the dunk tank was a monk, and he would deflect the shot every time you would take it. Also, Jeff, you referenced earlier that I wrote out a short comedy routine.
You recorded it.
I wrote it out, and I included some events that I was pretty sure were going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then I recorded myself as this comedian referencing things from earlier so things that the players would have done.
Uh-huh.
I referenced those in the comedian's routine, and I put in like applause and laughter and stuff. And so I just played this audio file for the group. I was very proud of this.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Oh, it was so much fun because in the module it talked about how there would be like street performers and such. So I wanted there to be a street performer you guys could listen to.
Yeah. I was playing a Warforged like I do.
Yeah.
And so the comedian made references to that.
Yep.
I think you made...
And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say that the comedian's routine was very largely inspired by Dane Cook and the guy from Futurama on the water planet, the planet where everybody's made of water.
Sure, yeah.
It was very much inspired by those two things. Those were my two inspirations for that. So,
oh goodness.
Anyway, it was a lot of fun coming up with it all, and it was a lot of fun playing through it, and you guys seemed to love it. So that was one, again, highlights of my DMing or my gaming career. That was one of the highlights, I think.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one. So if any of our listeners had any festivals or parties that they played out, I would love to hear about them. Hopefully they did things as involved as I did. I would love to hear some other people getting some enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, so that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, we still have our last segment. So let's relax. Let's take a deep breath. Let's revel in the potential insanity of believing or not believing in a or no deities, as we remember those who have come before us, who have maybe gone on to become deities themselves, depending on what setting.
Oh, sure.
Who knows? Let's think about those as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Preston Penguin R via Discord, and Preston says, during my game, The Goblin Adventure, the heroes won the day and got the items that the Goblin King wanted. I'm not sure if this is David Bowie or not. It does not say, but it is the Goblin King. Mm-hmm. The king was offered to grant a favor to each one. The last to go was Grunt. He wasn't the brightest goblin in the bunch, but was shooting for lofty heights. He asked the Goblin King to turn around so he could see the glory of the back of his head. The king obliged the request, lifting his club high into the air, and then he rolled a lovely natural 1.
Oh, no.
Boop. He tapped the back of the Goblin King's head. Confused and then angry, the Goblin King did the only thing he knew. Being a very stout and larger than average goblin, he picked Grunt up and began to eat him face first.
Oh, my.
With a wave and a disappointed look, Grunt said goodbye to his broodmates. So let's raise a glass in memory of Grunt, who reminds us, clink.
What?
It was Tim Allen from he was doing a grunt. That's what Tim Allen does.
I couldn't even do the clink thing.
It's fine. It's fine.
Oh my goodness.
Well, so that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, which you can find at bit.ly/interpartydiscord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes, and I am hoping to record some FriendQuest with you the week that this episode goes out. Cool. So stay tuned. Yeah. Also, speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Likewise, I am hoping to get an episode of this out the week that this episode goes out too. Mm-hmm. So stay tuned for that too. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict, not Interparty Discord, InterPartyConflict, to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time... Ho, 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 ho.